Koki Nakagawa stares in disbelief at a massive crater that just wiped out half the city. 3 hours earlier, life was a lot simpler. Ayumi Fujisaki is cornered by three guys who won't take no for an answer. Koki drops in with a flying kick to clear them out. He's had enough of these three muskfuls bothering her every single day. The guys scramble, calling him names as they make their exit. Ayumi immediately turns to Koki with her usual soft voice. Ayumi scolds Koki for being so aggressive. As soon as the others are out of sight, her tone completely shifts. She admits they were annoying as hell and thanks him for the save. Koki is head over heels. He starts bashing his own head against the wall, trying to process how much he actually loves everything about her. He reflects on how long they've been friends. Determined to protect her, he decides today is finally the day he confesses. In the hallway, he spots Hikari Jindo, a quiet girl with spiral glasses. He offers to help her carry a stack of papers to be polite. Hikari leans in close and asks if he likes Ayumi. Koki completely panics, but she just smiles and tells him she's got it all under control. Hikari has her own plans in motion. Meanwhile, Koki is a nervous wreck at lunch, wondering how he's going to handle the confession. He meets Ayumi on the rooftop later. He's shivering so hard he looks sick, while Ayumi just stands there wondering what's so important. Koki starts stumbling over his words, trying to come clean about his feelings. He's on the verge of a breakthrough when someone interrupts. Hikari walks out onto the roof, ditches her glasses, and reveals a much sharper look. She latches onto Koki's arm and tells Ayumi that she's actually his current girlfriend. Both Koki and Ayumi are left frozen in shock. Koki finally loses it and starts screaming at the top of his lungs. Ayumi plays along, pretending to be happy for him. Hikari introduces herself properly, making the whole situation even more awkward. Ayumi leaves them alone to spend time together. Koki is fuming, accusing Hikari of taking a prank way too far. Hikari doesn't back down. She demands he give up on Ayumi and start dating her instead. Koki gets a good look at her without the swirl glasses. He's surprised to find out that she's actually really cute. Hikari gets serious. She warns him that he can never confess to Ayumi because she's not a normal human being. Koki thinks it's just some weird story until she brings up the accident from 8 years ago. He has no idea how she could possibly know about that. Hikari tries a different approach to get him to listen, pulling his hand toward her chest and asking for forgiveness. Koki completely panics and pulls away. Hikari tells him they'll talk later, leaving him totally confused about what just happened. He spends the rest of the day in a complete daze. All he can think about is that he just touched a girl's chest for the first time. The news spreads like wildfire. Everyone in school thinks Nakagawa is officially dating the quiet girl from day duty. Suddenly, a baseball flies through a window and nails one of the muskfuls right in the head. Another guy gets knocked flat. Koki starts realizing that these coincidences are getting a little too frequent and dangerous. Romeo tries to hide in a locker and take a selfie, but the whole thing collapses on him. Hikari explains that this is Ayumi's power working unconsciously. If she's upset, her emotions start affecting the world on a global scale. Hikari keeps pushing her luck, trying to seduce Koki into believing her. He tells her to stop before his ancestors start rolling in their graves. He isn't interested in Hikari's games. He just wants to find the real Ayumi, the one who's honest with him. Hikari warns him that if he doesn't listen, there might not be a tomorrow. She brings him back to that terrible day 8 years ago. A massive car crash in the pouring rain changed everything. Ayumi survived, but her parents didn't, and it left a permanent scar on her heart. Koki visited her in the hospital every day. He watched her build a mask to hide the fact that she doesn't think she deserves happiness. He finds her on the roof again and tells her to cut the crap. He's tired of her forcing herself to hide how she really feels. Ayumi stays in character, telling him he's a good guy who deserves someone better than her. She gives him that same feigned smile and tells him to take good care of his new girlfriend. She admits she views her life as a punishment. She thinks her existence is hideous because she's the only one who survived. Koki tells her she's wrong. It was an accident, and she shouldn't have to live in guilt just because she survived. He can't hold it back anymore. He tells her that he doesn't want anyone else. He's in love with her, and only her. He shouts it out one more time for good measure. He's in love with Ayumi, and he's going to protect her no matter what. A gunshot rings out, cutting through Koki's heartfelt confession. Hikari Jindo stands there with a smoking revolver, warning him that he was already told to stay away. Koki is horrified as Ayumi Fujisaki collapses in his arms. He screams her name, demanding to know why Hikari would do something like this. Hikari calmly explains it's just an anesthesia gun. It was a necessary measure because Koki ignored her warnings. Ayumi wakes up for a split second, barely managing to mutter his name before passing out again. Hikari reminds him of the global disasters that happened 8 years ago. She reveals that Ayumi's mental state was the actual cause behind all of them. She explains that Ayumi has been suppressing her power by closing herself off from the world. However, Koki's sudden confession deeply shook her, and now the consequences are manifesting in real time. Right on cue, a massive meteor appears in the sky, heading straight for Misaka City. Hikari tells him if he continues to ignore the truth, the entire world will be destroyed. Hikari gives him 2 options to prevent a repeat of the tragedy from 8 years ago. One option is highly recommended, while the other is definitely not. The recommended choice is for Koki to give up on Ayumi and date Hikari instead. He's completely baffled, especially when she promises to be his subservient companion if he complies. Hikari presents him with a final choice. Will it be the world or her? She warns him that choosing Ayumi will only lead to more suffering for everyone. News reports confirm a meteor was spotted falling over the city, leaving researchers racing to figure out the cause. Koki sits in his room, wondering if all this insanity was actually triggered by Ayumi's powers. Even NASA is getting involved in the investigation as the public outcry grows. Koki still can't wrap his head around how Hikari managed to predict something this big. He looks at Ayumi sleeping soundly in his bed, wondering why she's kept the truth about the accident hidden for so long. He resolves to hear her out the next time they speak. Koki decides to take a shower to clear his head, feeling guilty about how much he's been avoiding the truth himself. He just wants things to go back to the way they were before. As he enters the bathroom, he's shocked to find Hikari waiting for him in a bikini, acting like she's a professional hostess. She tells him she's there to provide the best service possible. Koki is blushing furiously, demanding to know what the hell she's doing in his house. Hikari tells him not to be so loud, or they might wake up Ayumi. Hikari reveals that she's pretending to be a grown-up with a grown-up job just to mess with him. Koki is losing his mind, especially when she asks if he's interested in what she has to offer. Koki tries to stay firm, claiming he's not interested in this kind of stuff, even though Hikari calls him out on his search history. She insists on washing his back as part of her plan to make him give up on Ayumi. Koki is struggling to keep his composure, his body reacting to the situation despite his protests. Hikari is enjoying every second of it, telling him they should continue their conversation from the rooftop. Koki tries to argue that his mind is way cleaner than hers, but Hikari just laughs it off. She knows exactly how to get a reaction out of him. Hikari makes a bold offer. If he chooses her, she'll do this for him every single day, and she won't wear any clothes, either. Koki's heart starts racing as he realizes his dream scenario is actually happening. She adds that Ayumi would never do something like this for him. She reminds him that any extreme emotion, positive or negative, will trigger Ayumi's powers. Hikari gets even more explicit, telling him that any sexual contact with Ayumi would shake her to her core. If he chooses her, he will never be able to have sex for the rest of his life. Koki is crying literal tears of blood as he weighs his options. Hikari tells him they can do it every single day if he chooses her instead, no questions asked. Despite the temptation, Koki pulls away. He admits he still doesn't fully believe her explanation about the powers, but he understands that Ayumi is suffering. He refuses to abandon her just for his own pleasure. Hikari is genuinely interested in him now, noting that he's always thinking of Ayumi and never himself. Their conversation is cut short when they hear Ayumi waking up in the other room. Ayumi is stumbling around, looking for Koki because she's thirsty. Koki and Hikari are left scrambling to figure out how to explain why they're both naked in the shower together. Hikari tells Koki to stay quiet as she pins him against the wall. She asks him if she can kiss him, admitting she's always been interested in trying it. She promises to keep it a secret from Ayumi as she leans in closer. Koki is a deer in the headlights, unable to move as his heart thumps loudly in his chest. Koki finally finds the strength to push her away, shouting that there's no freaking way he could kiss her like this. Just then, Ayumi slides the door open and catches them in the middle of the mess. Ayumi is stunned, recognizing Hikari as the girlfriend from earlier. Koki is a sweating mess, desperately trying to come up with an explanation that doesn't sound completely insane. Ayumi demands to know what they're doing in there. Koki tries to play it off with a fake laugh, claiming he was just cleaning the bathroom, but nobody's buying it. Ayumi's head is spinning, and she starts wondering if she's just having a weird dream because she's so tired. Koki quickly agrees, telling her to go back to sleep while he finishes up. After Ayumi leaves, Koki is a wreck. He can't believe he actually went through with all that drama, especially since he was just about to kiss another girl right after trying to confess to Ayumi. Suddenly, it starts snowing outside, even though it's already May. Koki is shocked, realizing the weather forecast predicted 0 precipitation for the day. Hikari explains that this is all caused by the shock Ayumi felt back there. She tells him that if they hadn't dealt with it quickly, it could have ended in a total disaster. Koki starts to believe her, but he's still suspicious of what she's really after. He asks her directly who she exactly is, but she doesn't give him a straight answer. Hikari claims her goal is to make sure Koki and Ayumi stay exactly the way they've always been, just two longtime friends who get along. She believes everything will work out peacefully if he gives up on her. She explains that as a result of monitoring Ayumi, she's determined that maintaining their current relationship is the best possible outcome. That's why she's so intent on stopping Koki from confessing his feelings. Koki is skeptical, asking why she's the one who gets to decide how Ayumi feels. Hikari admits it's just speculation, but she's certain her ideas are correct. She tells him once again that he only has one real choice. He must choose her. If he does, he can keep his friendship with Ayumi exactly as it's always been. Hikari is confident that Ayumi just wants him to find happiness. She believes that since she knows what's going on, Koki should just make her his girlfriend and be done with it. Koki enters the room to find Ayumi changing, leaving him even more confused and flustered. He's starting to realize that Hikari is a complete enigma, and he's stuck right in the middle of her crazy plan. Ayumi enters the room and is shocked to see Koki and Hikari together, both looking like they've just come from the bath. Koki is flustered, trying to explain the situation while Hikari remains perfectly calm. Koki is embarrassed, especially since Ayumi saw him in his underwear. He tries to deflect her questions by criticizing her fashion sense, which only leads to a playful argument between the two. Ayumi admits she was feeling a bit sad and seeing things earlier, but talking with Koki makes her feel better. Koki is relieved that he's managed to convince her it was all just a hallucination. Koki reflects on how popular a girl like Ayumi must be, thinking it's a waste that she isn't dating anyone. He realizes he can't give up on her, no matter what Hikari says. Koki thinks about how relaxed he feels when he's with Ayumi. He decides that even if Hikari warns him, he's not going to run away. He'll be the one to help Ayumi through her psychological trauma. Determined to take a step forward, Koki suddenly asks Ayumi to go on a date with him. Ayumi is taken aback by the unexpected proposal. Ayumi is dressed up and ready to go, excitedly reminding Koki they're going shopping for him. Koki realizes this is the first time they've ever gone shopping together like this. Koki realizes he might have confused Ayumi by calling it a date. He quickly tries to clarify that he meant they were going shopping together as friends. Ayumi teases Koki about his clothes, asking if he needs her to pick them out like his mother. Koki is annoyed but goes along with it, hoping to have a normal day. Ayumi suggests they call it date practice. She wants to help him pick out clothes that a girl would like, making Koki wonder if she's finally starting to see him in a different light. At the mall, Ayumi is in her element, dragging Koki through various stores. She's determined to get him a complete outfit, despite his mild protests about her intense energy. Koki notices that Ayumi seems to be having fun. He reflects on how they haven't been out as a pair since the accident and is glad to see some things never change. While Koki is trying on clothes, Hikari suddenly appears again, much to his shock. She winks at him, acting as if her presence is perfectly normal. Hikari warns Koki that by choosing to go on a date with Ayumi, despite her warnings, he's making her his enemy. She declares she won't go easy on him from now on. To Koki's horror, Hikari opens her coat to reveal she's wearing only lingerie. She tells him she's going to use her body to teach him a lesson and monitor him as a stalker girlfriend. Hikari presses herself against Koki in the dressing room, taunting him. She says she'll butt in on their date at every opportunity, while Koki desperately worries about Ayumi being so close by. Koki emerges from the dressing room looking disheveled, making Ayumi suspicious. He blames it on a needy girlfriend attack, which only confuses Ayumi even more. Ayumi declares that since they have his clothes, it's time to practice a real date. She expects Koki to escort her around and says she will judge his performance. Koki resolves to make it the perfect date. The date gets off to a rocky start. Ayumi gives Koki 0 points for choosing ramen as their first stop, -20 for plastic models, and -100 for wanting to go into a lingerie store. She calls him a lost cause. Ayumi is disappointed in Koki's date planning and decides to show him how it's done, pulling out a book titled Date Plans to Land a Girl. They end up at a movie, which Koki finds cliché. As usual, Ayumi falls asleep during the movie. Koki looks at her, remembering how she was always active but has avoided everything she likes since the accident. He wonders why she agreed to today's date. Hikari appears behind Koki in the theater, offering to tell him why Ayumi avoids fun. She demands that he end the date immediately if he wants to know. Koki tells her to piss off and leave him alone. After the movie, they go to a restaurant. Ayumi is annoyed that she slept through the whole thing, but Koki tries to keep the conversation going by suggesting they look at light shows next. Ayumi decides to take charge again, saying she'll show him how a date is really done since she's known him forever. She's determined to make him enjoy himself and tells him to rate her dating skills. They go to karaoke and try on funny glasses. Koki is genuinely having a great time, giving Ayumi a perfect score. He tells her that seeing her happy makes him happy too. Ayumi is touched, but tells Koki that he deserves to find happiness himself. Koki is caught off guard by her words, noticing a momentary look of sadness on her face before she suggests their next stop. They come across a crowd at the mall. Hikari is there again, this time participating in a bathing suit campaign. Koki is exasperated by her constant interruptions, while Ayumi wonders why everyone is crowding around her. They end up at an arcade, a place they used to visit together often. Koki is excited, remembering how much Ayumi used to love these games, but Ayumi seems hesitant as they enter. Koki challenges Ayumi to a taiko drum game, reminding her she used to be a drum genius. Ayumi tries to refuse, but Koki has already put the money in, forcing her to play. As they play, Koki is happy to see Ayumi enjoying herself like they were kids again. However, Ayumi's expression suddenly changes to one of guilt and pain, her inner voice telling her she has no right to enjoy herself. Ayumi abruptly stops and leaves to go to the bathroom, looking visibly shaken. Koki is left confused and worried about what just happened. Hikari appears and explains that Ayumi's psychological trauma from 8 years ago is causing her to reject any positive emotions. She says Ayumi's unstable mind is directly linked to her dangerous powers. Hikari tells Koki that as long as Ayumi doesn't understand why she's suffering, she will continue to reject happiness forever. She asks Koki if he really thinks he can save her from the darkness in her soul. Hikari claims that Ayumi's smile today is just a performance to make Koki happy, not genuine enjoyment. She suggests Koki should give up and just let things stay as they are if he really cares for her. Hikari repeats her demand that Koki should choose her instead, promising him the happiness he wants without hurting Ayumi further. Koki wonders if he could actually abandon Ayumi like that. Ayumi returns, looking sad. Koki tells Hikari he's busy trying to do everything he can for Ayumi and tells her to get lost before she makes things worse. Ayumi is surprised by Koki's intense reaction. Koki tells Ayumi to just stay there and watch him as he resolves to clear the next level of the game. He's realized something important about how Ayumi has been avoiding the things she loves. Koki thinks about how Ayumi was enduring her pain alone while he was too scared to notice. He just wanted her to go back to being her old self and enjoy life a little more. Koki calls out to Ayumi, telling her she's good at this game and demanding she teach him how to beat it. He's determined to keep their practice date going and make her have more fun. Koki tells Ayumi that if she won't show him her exceptional smile, he won't show her his idiotic smile either. He challenges her to show him how to play, making Ayumi blush at his earnestness. Ayumi takes up the drumsticks and plays with incredible skill, her genuine passion for the game shining through. The crowd is amazed by her performance, calling her a pro. Ayumi is having the time of her life, her eyes sparkling as she tells Koki he'd better clear the level because she's doing all this for him. Koki smiles, seeing that he can indeed make her happy. Koki observes Ayumi's genuine happiness as she plays the drum game, realizing that her smile is far from fake. He resolves to do whatever it takes to see that smile more often, even if it means playing the fool and wearing a mask of his own. He knows this doesn't solve the core issue, but he's determined to get her to open up to him slowly. Hikari watches from a distance, conceding that she's lost this time and decides to leave them alone for the day. Meanwhile, Koki and Ayumi are having a blast, with other kids even asking Ayumi to teach them how to play. Koki is enthusiastic, ready to try his hand at the game next. As they leave the arcade, Ayumi asks for her score on their date practice. Koki gives her a perfect score, acknowledging that she was in charge the whole time. He suggests they come back again so he can get better at the games he's not good at, hoping for another chance to spend time together. Ayumi seems a bit flustered but agrees, saying it's just so he can improve. Ayumi shyly admits that she wouldn't mind coming with him again if there are games he can't clear. Koki is touched by her words, but his moment of happiness is cut short when he notices Hikari's lingering presence. Hikari's internal monologue reveals a darker perspective, suggesting that this isn't the time for them to be happy. Hikari watches them go, her thoughts turning ominous. She believes that the more hope Koki holds, the greater the despair he will face. She hints at a secret far more devastating than Ayumi's powers or trauma, wondering if Koki will be able to stay sane once he finally learns the truth about the girl he's trying so hard to save. A violent car crash erupts on a rainy mountain road. Amidst the twisted metal and shattered glass, someone screams out a name, Ayumi. Masachika Hughes jolts awake from a nightmare, sweating. Elisa Mikhailovna Kujo, or Alia as everyone calls her, is leaning right over him, telling him to quit sleeping and get moving before he's late. By the lockers, Alia continues her lecture, but Masachika is still spaced out. He can't shake the memory of the girl from his dream surviving that horrific accident, and it makes Alia's usual bossy attitude feel a lot less scary. The atmosphere in the hallway is heavy, with everyone staring at them like something is different today. As they walk, Alia delivers a sharp kick to his leg, clearly annoyed by his silence. Masachika looks down and realizes the kick was more than just a nudge. The entire sole of his shoe has been ripped clean off. He stares at the ruin in total disbelief. Alia looks just as shocked as he is, claiming she has no idea how it happened. Fed up with the weird morning, Masachika leaves her behind to go find a girl named Jindo-san for some answers. He walks right into a wall of angry-looking guys. They glare at him with terrifying expressions, calling him a traitor before he can even explain himself. The tension breaks when Jindo-san, a girl with long black hair, appears with a bright smile. She greets Masachika like nothing's wrong, completely ignoring the murderous looks from the boys around them. She pulls him aside to talk about powers, noting that her readings are a bit low today. Masachika listens as she casually mentions that none of her usual abilities have activated all morning. Jindo-san admits she told the other boys she wholly belongs to a guy named Nakagawa just to get them to leave her alone. Masachika can't believe she'd drop a lie that big just for some peace and quiet. A trio of guys who call themselves the Muskfuls confront them, furious that their reputation is being ruined. They demand Masachika and Nakagawa explain themselves right now. They shove a phone in Masachika's face, showing a social media post that they claim is stone-cold proof of Nakagawa's scandalous behavior. Masachika realizes he's being dragged into some serious drama. The guys keep pressing, claiming other students have already come forward to confirm the rumors. They're convinced Nakagawa has been two-timing everyone and laughing behind their backs. The Muskfuls explode in rage, demanding to know what happened to the innocent friend they used to know. Masachika watches as they start accusing Nakagawa of being a total player. Masachika knows a mob won't listen to logic, so he tells Jindo-san it's time to just tell the truth. He hopes it'll clear the air, but the situation is already spiraling out of control. Jindo-san confesses all right, but she makes it way worse by claiming they've even bathed together. The boys go into a frenzy, screaming off with his head as Masachika realizes he's cooked. In the classroom, Alia is shocked to hear the rumors have already spread across the entire school. Her friend shows her the social media posts that are fueling the fire. The gossip just keeps getting crazier, with rumors flying that Nakagawa is a two-timing manslut. Alia looks on in disbelief as the entire male student body prepares for war. The school has turned into a total madhouse, with boys prowling the halls looking for someone to kill. Masachika hides behind a corner, wishing he'd just stayed home today. Before he can slip away, someone grabs him and hauls him toward the boys' restroom. He's totally blindsided by the sudden ambush. It's Jindo-san again, cornering him in the restroom. Masachika is baffled that she's still trailing him after all the chaos she's already caused. As a thank you, she starts offering her special services, but Masachika shuts her down immediately. Their voices carry, and the angry mob outside hears them, kicking the door down in a rage. Jindo-san realizes her plan failed miserably. She figures she's better off just going back to class, admitting that her attempts to help aren't exactly working out. As she heads down the stairs, she's blocked by Alya. The silver-haired girl looks unusually serious, and the air around her feels cold. Jindo-san asks if there's something she can do, and Alya confirms they need to talk about a few things. Her expression remains unreadable. Alya confronts her about the rumors with Nakagawa, wanting to know if Jindo-san is actually interested in him or just playing with his feelings for fun. Jindo-san tries to play it cool, but Alya isn't biting. Alya's tone becomes threatening as she warns Jindo-san not to cause her friend any more trouble. She's tired of the chaos and the games. With a terrifying look in her eyes, Alya slams her hand against the wall, pinning Jindo-san in place. She makes it clear that she won't be letting her off the hook easily. Suddenly, a window nearby shatters into pieces. Masachika and the other boys freeze, wondering if Alya's frustration just triggered something catastrophic. Alya demands a promise that Jindo-san isn't just flirting for fun. Jindo-san finally drops the act, admitting her feelings are actually the real deal. Alya tells her to go explain things to the boys so they'll finally calm down. She realizes Jindo-san truly does have feelings, but that doesn't mean she's going to let her guard down. Her expression turns dark as she warns Jindo-san that if Nakagawa ends up unhappy, there will be hell to pay. She's prepared to step in and handle things her way. Masachika finds Jindo-san by the broken glass. She admits that she's to blame for the shattered windows, realizing her own unstable emotions triggered the event. Jindo-san explains that her jealousy and anger can trigger these strange phenomena. She's been repressing her emotions for years to hide her psychological trauma, but they're starting to leak out. She tells Masachika that he needs to give up on Alya. He's stunned, but she insists that he doesn't know the truth about the girl he's been sitting next to. She promises to tell him the truth about Alya's secrets and the source of her mysterious powers. Masachika listens intently, sensing that something big is about to be revealed. Jindo-san reveals that Alya didn't always have these powers. She received them exactly 8 years ago during that horrific accident. Masachika's mind flashes back to his dream. She explains how Alya survived a fall off a steep cliff with almost no injuries because of the massive energy that suddenly resided within her. It's the same energy that can change the weather and even the orbit of meteors. Then comes the ultimate bombshell. Alya technically died 8 years ago in that accident. Masachika is left reeling, unable to process what that means for the girl standing right there. He stares at Alya, his mind racing. If she died in that crash, then what is he looking at now? The name Mayumi from his dream suddenly feels a lot more significant. Jindo-san explains that when Alya died, her powers essentially replaced her soul. They function as her other heart, keeping her body moving even though her soul is gone. But there's a catch. These powers aren't infinite. They'll eventually run out as she uses them. And when they do, she will die for real. Masachika can only stare in horror at the ticking clock on Alya's life. Jindo-san reveals the full extent of her influence. She's the one who can harvest Alya's powers at any moment. Her grip on Alya's very life is absolute, and she holds it like it's nothing more than a game. She gives Masachika a choice: give up on Alya to save her from the burden of her powers, or risk the entire world being destroyed if they activate. It's a heavy decision, and she urges him to think long and hard about it. Masachika stumbles through the halls, his mind reeling from the secret. He looks at Alya, who is standing there completely unaware that everyone believes she should have died years ago. To him, the fact that she's standing there at all is nothing short of a miracle. Alya tries to explain everything to the boys, but Misachika is too distracted by his own pounding heart. He stares at her, the words Ayumi is dead, echoing in his head until he finally snaps and asks her what's wrong with her. Alya is taken aback by his sudden intensity, and in the confusion, she ends up pressed against him. Misachika can feel her heart beating, a frantic rhythm that proves she's very much alive, despite what Jindo-san told him. The other boys aren't exactly thrilled to see them so close. They start shouting threats, calling Misachika the enemy of every guy in school. Alya just looks annoyed that her attempt to defend him backfired so spectacularly. Misachika sits alone, trying to wrap his head around the power's nonsense. He laughs it off, thinking it sounds like something straight out of a manga, until he remembers the wreckage of the accident and how impossible it was for anyone to survive. Even as a kid, he had his doubts about how Alya made it out of that crash with barely a scratch. Class is starting, but he can't focus, his mind stuck on the idea that her life truly might be resting in Jindo-san's hands. He looks over at Jindo-san, wondering just who the hell she actually is. She knows everything about the accident and Alya's secrets, and the idea that she could just end Alya's life whenever she wanted is terrifying. Jindo-san catches him staring and gives him a cold, unsettling look that's a far cry from her usual cheerful self. Suddenly, Misachika's phone buzzes with a message from her, even though he doesn't remember ever swapping contacts. He opens the message to find a series of suggestive photos she sent him as a reward for earlier. Misachika is completely flustered, unsure if this is a joke or another subtle warning. He decides to just delete the photos and try to stay calm. He realizes he doesn't know the first thing about Jindo-san, and he needs to hear her out one more time to figure out what she's really after. The group of boys, calling themselves the Virgin Alliance, confronts Misachika, feeling betrayed that he's getting close to a real girl. They have strict rules against having relationships, and they're ready to call anyone who breaks them. One of the boys lunges at him with a ruler, screaming that it's time for him to die. Misachika barely manages to dodge, shouting that they're all being completely ridiculous. The boys chase him into the courtyard, acting like they're on a witch hunt. Misachika realizes they've been watching his every move, even noticing how he was looking at Jindo-san during class. Alya watches the chaos from a window, wondering where Misachika disappeared to. Her friends are suspicious, noting how rare it is for him to skip class, especially if it involves a girl. Misachika manages to lose them, but he's still left with more questions than answers. He's frustrated that he never got Jindo-san to explain everything clearly, and he knows the other boys will be on high alert now. He lies back and thinks about what Jindo-san said about saving the world. It's hard to take her seriously when his mind keeps drifting to the naughty things she's been saying and doing. Everything Jindo-san has said so far has come true, which makes it even harder to believe she's lying. If giving up on Alya really is the only way to save her, he's faced with a choice that feels impossible. Suddenly, he hears a loud thud as someone tries to kick in the door to his hiding spot. He realizes the Virgin Alliance has found him, and if they get the door open, he's as good as dead. To his surprise, Alya is the one who finds him first, though the encounter ends with another accidental grope. She's furious, screaming at him for being a pervert, while Misachika tries to apologize for the 100th time. She continues her tirade, calling him a roaring dumpster fire of a human being. Misachika just takes the abuse, knowing that trying to explain himself will only make things worse. Once she calms down, she admits she was looking for him because she was worried. She knows he always hides in small places when he's upset, and she's been searching the school just to find him. Misachika is touched by her concern, especially when she admits that their earlier accident felt different from anything in the past. They sit together in silence for a moment, the tension finally starting to melt away. Alya urges him to tell her if anything is bothering him, promising that he can tell her anything. Misachika looks into her eyes, tempted to spill the secret, but he's afraid of what the truth might do to her. She asks if Jindo-san said something weird to him again. Misachika tries to deny it, but his obvious hesitation gives him away. Alya sees right through him, frustrated that he's still trying to hide things. Alya's voice softens as she tells him her life would have no meaning if she couldn't make him happy. She's prepared to do whatever it takes to support him, even if it means dealing with Jindo-san herself. She reveals that he's the one thing in her life that gives her hope to keep on living. Misachika is stunned by her confession, realizing that her feelings for him are much deeper than he ever imagined. Misachika realizes that Alya is suffering from the same kind of trauma he is, which is why she's so desperate to see him smile. He decides that no matter what Jindo-san says, he's going to be the one to save her. He suddenly flashes a bright, genuine smile, telling her that his problem is already solved. Alya is completely confused by his sudden change in mood, wondering if he's finally lost his mind. Alya is still skeptical, but seeing his idiotic grin makes her feel like she can finally let everything go. Misachika's phone starts ringing, and he sees that it's another call from Jindo-san. Alya's expression turns sinister when she sees who's calling. She takes the phone and tells Jindo-san to shut the hell up before she actually loses her temper. Jindo-san just laughs, completely unfazed. Jindo-san ignores the threat and asks Misachika to set up a meeting so she can chat with Alya. She knows he's not going to give up on her, and she wants to find a way for all three of them to get along. She admits she's no good at making friends, so she needs Misachika to do all the legwork for her. Misachika is exhausted just thinking about it, but he knows he doesn't have much of a choice. Back at school, the tension between the two girls is palpable. Alya clearly hates people who can't read the room, and Jindo-san is the ultimate example of that. Still, Jindo-san makes her move, asking Alya to be her friend right in front of everyone. Alya is beyond annoyed, especially since they're in different classes and barely even interact. She's about to refuse when a minor earthquake rattles the building, making her wonder if her powers are about to snap. Misachika is panicking, begging Alya to do something before her powers cause even more damage. Jindo-san just gives him a wink, making him even more frustrated with her lack of people skills. He realizes that if Alya becomes Jindo-san's enemy, she's the one who's truly in danger. He's the only one Jindo-san is on good terms with, so he has to be the one to bridge the gap between them. The three of them sit together, and Jindo-san notes that Misachika and Alya actually seem to get along pretty well. Misachika just says they happen to sit next to each other in class, though the earthquake-like rumbling continues around them. 30 minutes later, the meeting is still going poorly. Jindo-san suggests Alya should try to expand her social circle, which only makes Alya even more defensive. Misachika is stuck in the middle of a battle he can't win. Jindo-san admits her strategy isn't working, so she decides to speak frankly. She reveals that the real reason she wants to befriend Alya is so she can finally become Nakagawa's girlfriend. Alya is stunned by the blunt confession. Jindo-san explains that Nakagawa keeps turning her down because he doesn't want to leave Alya alone, so she figured getting Alya's approval was the only way forward. Alya is left speechless by the sheer honesty. Jindo-san, leaning in close, asks Alya if she would accept it if Jindo and Misachika became a couple. The question hangs in the air, weighted with a testing intensity. Alya's refusal is immediate and absolute. No, freaking way, she declares, her back to them, while Misachika stands between the two girls, completely caught off guard by the tension. Turning to face Jindo-san, Alya's eyes flash with indignation. She bluntly tells her that she doesn't like the idea because Jindo-san isn't deserving of someone like Misachika. Alya continues her passionate defense, calling Misachika the nicest guy in the world and an irreplaceable person to her. She refuses to let someone she deems ill-natured anywhere near him, while Misachika listens with a mixture of embarrassment and worry. Jindo-san challenges Alya to define the perfect woman for Misachika. Alya begins listing a series of impossible standards: beauty, elegance, a sharp mind, killer reflexes, and popular enough to be a model. As Alya adds dauntless courage and a body of steel to the list, Misachika realizes she's essentially describing a gorilla. Jindo-san laughs, pointing out that Alya has completely undermined her own argument with such ridiculous criteria. Jindo-san's tone shifts to something far darker as she asks Alya a final, chilling question. Would she be willing to die for Misachika? The gravity of the question silences the room for a moment. Without hesitation, Alya declares that she would willingly lay down her life for him. Her intensity is overwhelming, leaving Misachika stunned and slightly fearful of the sheer weight of her devotion. Jindo-san's expression turns terrifyingly cold as she leans in, warning Alya that such a burden might not actually make Misachika happy. She threatens to lose her temper if Alya continues with this line of thinking. Sensing the impasse, Jindo-san proposes a contest to settle their differences. If Alya wins, Jindo will leave them alone, but if Jindo wins, Alya must accept her as a friend. The battlefield is chosen: the upcoming Sports Day Festival. Whichever girl's class earns the most points will be declared the winner of their personal wager. Jindo-san departs with a playful, mocking laugh, leaving a fuming Alya and a weary Misachika behind. Misachika can't help but feel that Jindo-san is rotten to the core. Later, Misachika lies in the clubroom, brooding over the upcoming festival. Alya is nearby, slumped over and regretting her emotional outburst, admitting she needs to work on her self-control. Misachika asks Alya why she remembers Jindo-san from middle school if she was so forgettable. Alya dismisses Jindo-san as nonsensical, though her irritation suggests she hasn't forgotten her at all. Alya reveals that there was one specific thing Jindo-san did back then that left a lasting impression on her, though she doesn't elaborate, only fueling Misachika's curiosity. A buzz from Misachika's phone interrupts their conversation, a message from Jindo-san asking to meet. Alya shoots him a terrifyingly intense look, warning him not to breathe a word about their festival deal. Misachika finds Jindo-san waiting for him on a swing set at the park. She's dressed in her school blazer and a short skirt, looking surprisingly casual despite her earlier threats. Jindo-san thanks Misachika for his great job earlier and asks for his help with her plan for the festival. Feeling cornered, Misachika reluctantly agrees to do what he can for his own class's victory. Jindo-san considers this a big step forward. She mentions that her powers activated on a small scale during her encounter with Alya, suggesting that her influence is more than just social. She questions the sincerity of Alya's willingness to die for Misachika, wondering if it's just a performance of innocence. She asks Misachika point-blank if he thinks Alya truly cares for him. Jindo-san makes it clear that her goals haven't changed. She expects Misachika to support her endeavors and handle the situation between her and Alya, regardless of his own feelings. In a sudden, provocative move, Jindo-san offers him a secret reward for his hard work, doing something sexy with him. Misachika is left sputtering as she promises the better he works, the better the reward. As Jindo-san walks away, she delivers one final warning. Knowing the truth about her, and Alya might put him in the crosshairs of danger. Misachika is left standing in the dark, deeply unsettled. Her shadow stretches across the playground as she disappears, leaving Misachika to grapple with the realization that he's been pulled into something far more dangerous than a simple school rivalry. The day of the sports day festival arrives. The atmosphere is electric, but for Misachika and Alya, the stakes are much higher than just school spirit. In full view of everyone, Jindo-san wraps her arms around Misachika, shamelessly hugging him. The other boys watch with growing fury, while Misachika feels a sense of impending doom. The festival is in full swing, and the next event is the group jump rope. The contest between Alya's Class 2C and Jindo-san's Class 2A is about to begin. Class 2C is touted as the heavy favorite, filled with fantastic athletes. Meanwhile, Class 2A is dead last in the rankings, making the outcome seem like a foregone conclusion. True to expectations, Class 2C wins the event handily. Class 2A is so thoroughly defeated that they've already retreated to their seats, leaving the boys of 2C to celebrate their easy victory. Jindo-san, looking entirely unfazed by her class's loss, corners Misachika again. She asks if he realized her class was at a massive disadvantage from the start, a playful glint in her eyes. She takes things a step further, pressing her breast against Misachika and asking him, "How about now?" as a distraction. Misachika is mortified, aware of the burning glares from his classmates. The boys of the class are ready to revolt, calling Misachika a traitor and a piece of trash. Alya appears behind them, her expression unreadable as she finds Jindo-san shamelessly fondling her friend. Jindo-san, now dressed in a skimpy gym uniform, reminds Alya about their contest. She claims she dressed cute, just for the occasion, though the competitive tension between them is sharper than ever. Alya dismisses Jindo-san's antics, pointing out that their classes are on completely different levels. She wishes Jindo-san's class luck, though it's clear she expects a total victory. The next event is the obstacle course. Jindo-san whispers to Misachika, telling him to do his best to win, promising an even better prize if he succeeds in bringing Class 2A to victory. Misachika starts the race, his mind racing as he tries to decide whose side he should be on. He realizes that if he doesn't help Jindo-san, she'll stay in a bad mood, which could be dangerous for Alya. As he nears the hurdles, Misachika is suddenly tripped by a teammate. The boy, Naoya, is furious, accusing Misachika of working too hard just to get a reward from Jindo-san. The situation devolves into a full-blown brawl on the track. The boys of the class attack Misachika, convinced he's trying to do something nasty with Jindo-san while she's wearing bloomers. Misachika is left beaten and bruised on the sidelines. Jindo-san, showing no sympathy, leans over him and asks if he still wants to fondle her boobs despite his humiliating loss. The morning events officially conclude with Class 2C firmly in the lead. Alya cheers on her classmates, completely unaware of the physical toll the festival is taking on Misachika. During the lunch break, Jindo-san tries to convince the boys in her class to work harder, but they are completely demoralized and disinterested. She's left fuming at their lack of motivation. Alya approaches Jindo-san, her gaze cold and competitive. She tells the other girls that she intends to win the entire festival, leaving Jindo-san and her classmates confused by her sudden intensity. Jindo-san's attempt to lead Class 2A backfires as her classmates turn on her, insulting her taste in boys and calling her names. They mock her for using her body to seduce Misachika, eventually abandoning her to blow this popsicle stand as she's left sweating and humiliated. Misachika, witnessing Jindo-san's social collapse, snaps and makes a desperate plea to his class. He begs them to find a way to win, realizing that if they lose, Jindo-san's wrath will be directed entirely at him. The boys of Class 2 are still suspicious of Misachika, questioning if they're even cool to the girls anymore. They remind him that he was part of their Virgin Alliance until recently, and they sense that something has changed since he got cozy with Jindo-san. To win back his classmates' trust, Misachika shows them a series of memories of his interactions with Jindo-san, memories that are heavily filtered through her provocative behavior. The boys are immediately won over by the promise of popularity and stuff like that, if they succeed. As the afternoon events begin, Misachika apologizes to Jindo-san for not being able to persuade the boys. She tells him not to worry, claiming she's already done something on her own. A sudden scratch in the air signals that her influence is back in play. The first afternoon event is the boys' tug-of-war. Alia's Class 2C is confident, expecting to crush Class 2A. Jindo-san, however, watches with a knowing smile, assuring her classmates that everything will be piece of cake. The tug-of-war begins with an explosion of sound. The announcers highlight the stars of Class 2C, but as the whistle blows, something incredible happens. The boys of Class 2A, previously demoralized, are suddenly filled with an unnatural strength. With a guttural roar of "BOBS," the boys of Class 2A yank the rope with such force that the boys of 2C are sent flying. The audience is stunned into silence, and Alia can only watch in confusion as her class is obliterated in seconds. Class 2A has completely dominated their opponents, leaving everyone wondering what they just witnessed. The boys of 2A look like men possessed, their faces contorted in a terrifying, singular focus. Alia is left speechless, her plan for victory crumbling before her eyes. Jindo-san rewards the boys with juice and praise, maintaining her sweet persona. But the snap of her fingers reveals the cold reality behind her kindness. She's using them as pawns in her game, and they are too blinded by her charm to notice. Leaning into the boys' excitement, Jindo-san makes a series of increasingly provocative promises. She tells them that if they win overall, she'll let them do whatever they want to her body, a lie that sends their motivation into overdrive. The boys of 2A are now a literal army, their shirts discarded as they prepare for the next event with a primal intensity. Misachika, horrified by the change in them, asks Jindo-san what she did, but she only offers a cryptic "oh, nothing." Misachika realizes that Jindo-san's hypnosis has turned the boys into her personal servants. She admits she had to get a bit rough with them, but she assures him that once the festival is over, they'll have no memory of what happened. Jindo-san explains that her very important thing was mocked by the boys, and this is their punishment. She's turned them into a powerful army that can overcome any obstacle, her own personal dominion within the school. Her influence doesn't stop there. Jindo-san has recruited an army company of empresses, other girls who are using their beauty to coerce the boys into submission. Misachika can only watch in awe and terror as her plan to befriend Alia becomes a full-scale social takeover. Class 2A continues their unstoppable rampage, winning the pole pull-down event with ease. The announcers are in disbelief as 2A takes first place again and again. Misachika realizes that Jindo-san is willing to do anything to achieve her goals. The roar of the crowd is deafening as Class 2A's steady advance shows no signs of letting up. Alia's frustration is palpable, her face shadowed with a mixture of anger and disbelief as she watches her class's lead evaporate. Misachika is caught in a mental spiral, realizing that if Jindo-san wins, the entire school, and perhaps the world, is in danger. He watches as she sits comfortably on the sidelines, her phone buzzing with messages of her growing influence. The chapter ends with a chilling image of Jindo-san's true nature. While she smiles innocently on the surface, her internal thoughts are dark and calculating. Masachika, head in his hands, is left wondering who the hell side he's even supposed to be on anymore.